Okay, I'm going to call our Tuesday, November 26, 2019 regular governing board meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Let it be shown that all members are here. We will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a moment of silence. And this moment of silence will be for um, thanks for what and who we have now, and some thoughts to those who have had some losses. So let us start with I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. So welcome everybody on this Tuesday before our thinking break. Um, Let us have our adoption of the agenda, please.
I move that the governing board adopt the agenda.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That would be 5 ayes, therefore there are no nays. Um, and Sheila, you'll put our votes in 5 ayes for that, please? I don't think it popped up for everyone
It popped
yet.
up for me.
Okay, mine did. Hold on. All right, well, I'm not. Mine didn't pop up. I did it again. And yes, I re-signed it. Okay, well, you can put that in for me. Governing board reports. Ms. Tweedy?
Just a few quick things. I was able to attend the LD22 Republican meeting. Their last meeting was focused on education, so it was nice to be there. And I talked to some representatives and senators, and they wanted to start what we had a group going last year, so they want to start back up in January, so where they meet and talk to educators and hear their perspectives on things. So we're going to start that group back up in January, and I was happy that they were still willing to talk to us and at least exchange perspectives. And the only other thing, I did want to make one agenda request item tonight for a discussion item. I have heard from many employees who were concerned about how the placement of certified and their administrators being handled at.
Oh, can you repeat?
I would like to request a discussion item. I have been contacted and heard a lot of concerns about how the certified and the administrators being handled in the Bel Air Traditional School. And I really just would like to have that as a discussion item. I was unaware that that was going to happen if that was a traditional school.
And I would like to second Ms. Tweedy's request for that agenda item.
And I'm going to third it when I go to my report, so I think we're going to just do this. And Ms. Tweedy, do you have anything else?
No, I'm sorry. That was it. Oh, happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and you guys.
Make sure that you didn't forget anything. Oh my gosh, look at you biting at the bit. Go ahead, Ms. Frank.
Yes, I have a report tonight.
Hey.
So first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Canyon Springs. I had the pleasure earlier in the month of attending their STEM Career Day. I was in second grade, and it was just really awesome to see how engaged those second graders were in learning about careers in STEM. It was really a great day. I was also really excited to see how many members of their community turned out to share information on their various STEM-related careers. So that was really very well done, and so kudos to the principal and staff of Canyon Springs. I'd also like to give a shout out to our staff at Community Ed. I had the pleasure of attending a PD for them a couple of weeks ago, facilitating some parts of it. And so we really have I could tell, a top-notch community ed staff working with our kids in those after-school and non-formal programs. And so it was really great to have the opportunity to interact with our community ed staff. And then, again, I would also like to second Ms. Tweedy's request for that agenda item. And I did email Dr. Finch some questions. And I'm sure he'll respond when you have the questions about the Bel Air staff. I was Also unaware that the principal and teachers would be required to reapply for their positions. So that's what I've heard. If I'm not hearing correctly, then I'd like the updated information. I can't think of any other school where we've done that, with the exception of the TAP programs. But in terms of, when Highland Lakes became a Renaissance Academy, the staff was not required, or the principal was not required to re-interview for their positions. If leadership changes at a school, staff is not required to re-interview for their positions. So I would like to know the thinking behind that. I have some concerns that when you have a school, you have a long-time staff, and that they build a community together. So I don't have any objections at all to the traditional academy model. I think it's been very well done in other districts, but I am concerned that when people have to reapply for their positions, there's a possibility of ripping that community apart, and that could make it difficult for that model to succeed. So I would like to get some more information on that. I do plan to attend the next parent meeting on December 9th, and I look forward to seeing the presentation that Dr. Zerbach will be presenting. But I do have some concerns, and I did share them with you, that this was being rolled out to staff and parents prior to the board actually approving the changes. So that's it for my board report.
Thank you. Ms. Reed? Mrs. Reed? Sorry.
Thank you. Over the last 2 weeks, I had an opportunity to visit North Terry Canyon and their IB program and see some of the different lessons that they were doing there. It was neat. One of the lessons that we observed was one of the science classes made a scale model of the solar system out on the field. So they took the sun and measured it. I think it was 22 centimeters, and then took each of the planets and in meters measured how far away they were. And by the time I think we got to Saturn, they were from the building all the way clear to the middle of the softball field. So it was neat to watch the students interact that way. We did have an opportunity to go to the pop luncheon and get to meet some of the different PTSA presidents that were there, and we had some really great discussion. I was invited to speak at a Boy Scout meeting to talk about a little bit of the roles as far as being a governing board member and some of the different things that we're responsible for, and some of the different roles I play in the community. And that was really fun to speak to 4th and 5th graders. And I think that all but 2 in this Boy Scout troop were students from Deer Valley schools. So that was really neat, just to hear some of their thoughts as far as what a governing board member did. And they're all looking for me when I come to their school. So hopefully I get to run around to all of their schools here soon. I did attend the boundary meeting at Barry Goldwater High School. I just want to say thank you to the executive cabinet for all of the hard work that you did with getting the PowerPoints ready, and for spending your evening with parents and answering questions. And also want to thank the school site administrators for making sure that all parents were notified. So for the emails and the push out calls and things like that. Also want to say thank you to our cafeteria and food service workers for the last 2 weeks of their holiday lunches that they've done, the Thanksgiving lunches. I know that there's a lot of extra hard work that goes into preparing those and getting the cafeteria ready for the 1,000 people that come in, all of the parents and family members that come in to have lunch with their students. And I do want to just send another special thank you to our school counselors, our social workers, and our parent liaisons that are really working hard right now to make sure that our students are taken care of, especially at Title I schools. I know that there's a lot of extra phone calls and emails that are going out right now to ensure that our students have food over the breaks, and that they have Thanksgiving dinners and holiday meals and holiday gifts. So thank you for going the extra mile and loving our students the way that you do to make sure that they're all taken care of. I have 2 questions And if you could, I don't know if this might be an HR Jenna thing, maybe, for if we have staffing requirements for how many monitors or staff members need to be present outside when we have unstructured time, so passing time, recess, things like that. If you wouldn't mind sending that in an update, I would appreciate it. And then just want to make sure that as we get back from Thanksgiving break, that we do another big push for the second round of boundary meetings. I did get an email from a parent who was concerned that he wasn't notified correctly. So I just want to make sure that we're exhausting all of our all of our avenues to make sure that parents are well aware for the boundary meetings. So thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. O'Brien.
Thank you. I'd like to give a big shout out to our Mountain Ridge band. They won Super State. It was amazing. I did get to, yes, that was awesome. Yeah. Sorry. We actually had 3 bands qualify. That was Deer Valley High School, Sandra Day O'Connor, and then Mountain Ridge. I was fortunate enough to see all 3, and they were all wonderful, but it was wonderful to hear that Mountain Ridge took first place. There's another high school, to remain unnamed, who has won about 8 times or 9 times in the last year, and the times they have been unseated, both times they have been by Deer Valley high schools, once Sandra Day O'Connor and now Mountain Ridge. So big shout out to them. And then Mountain Ridge Cheer and Palm also did really well at state, so they are moving on. So congratulations to them as well. The superintendent pop luncheon was very informative, and I think mostly from a standpoint of, for me, the session on PLCs and what our school leaders did and didn't know, and how we can better communicate with them so that they can communicate with their parents and also their principal, and that it's okay to ask questions and sit down and really understand what's going on. Greenbrier had an after Veterans Day or Veterans Day week celebration, and honored the veterans in their community, and it was a very nice celebration. Let's see. The Arizona School Boards Association Legislative Workshop, I was able to attend that, and I'd like to, for us all, to give a round of applause for Mrs. Moffett, because she did a great job.
Does she need to stand up?
She
You stand up back there?
She's going to wave. There you go. She was part of a panel. It's not all money, but money certainly helps on the continuing personnel challenges for district staff. So she did a great job. It was, I think, a very good and helpful discussion. She did highlight our employee assistance program, so that was very nice. I was able to attend the boundary meeting at Sandra Day O'Connor. Mr. Miglerino did a great job and handled a lot of questions from, I think we had over 100 parents at that meeting, if I counted correctly, as they were coming and going. And then last but not least, on Friday, I attended our District 1, City Council District 1 community breakfast, and was able to give a shout out for the restaurant, Avenue 27 at Barry Goldwater. So it was wonderful to see them here tonight. If you've not had the opportunity to dine at Avenue 27 on one of the Fridays that they're open, I highly encourage it. The students there run a wonderful restaurant, and they do it all with a little supervision from Chef Ryan, but it's an amazing experience, 3 courses. And I'm going to wish Norterra Canyon's MYPIB program good luck. They were trying to get certification, so we were involved with that and got to tour the school and learn a lot more about that program. And finally, I just want to tell you all how thankful I am for our staff, our students, and our community members. This is an amazing family to be a part of, and I hope you all have a blessed Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Why, thank you. I missed some of that stuff because I've been sick for a couple of weeks, but I did get to listen to some of the band competition via FaceTime. and awesome that our young musicians are with their leaders. Um, Instead of going over all those things, the MYP was awesome. I just want to say that all of our students, our employees, parents, guardians, community members give this district thousands of things to be thankful for, and yes, that could be an everyday thing. We've got 35,000 students, so that would be thousands of things that we can be thankful for every day. And behind those students would be parents, guardians, and staff members, all certified and classified. So as a family, we learn and we grow, and we figure out how the next step is going to be, how to be better. But our district is all about our students, so we just really need to keep that in mind. With saying that, I have a few requests, and mine would maybe be in the shape of reports and a discussion item. So one of the reports that I'm interested in is transportation, and in regards to transportation, how we're utilizing our buses for after the school time activities. There was, from my understanding now, a new interpretation of DOT rules that whomever at the Department of Transportation or Arizona Department of Transportation has now included education buses into the mix of moving cargo. Checking with other school districts, and there's been several, at this moment we appear to be the only one that is going with that interpretation. So I would not only ask for a report on that that would include other school districts that are following this very narrow or broad, however you want to look at it, interpretation. But what the costs of that are, because I feel that a legal opinion could perhaps have those funds that are being used for charter buses and all of the confusion that then will ensue when you have district drivers, district buses, charter buses, who's doing what, where are they doing it, and I'm not saying it's being done willy-nilly, but whenever you have outside, you do have that opportunity for confusion. So if we could get a legal opinion on that and find out at least what's going on with the rest of our districts, and perhaps if there are other districts that are following it the way we are, maybe we could find out how to band together as school districts, because the safety aspect of this rule is there's no safety that's being compromised by following the rule how it's always been followed. So I'm very interested in having a report on that. The next thing would be with the comprehensive plan that we're going to continue with for the rollout of Bel Air turning into a traditional school. We did have, when we turned our schools into TAP schools, there was a reapplication, and during that time we learned certain things from how we roll things out. We don't let employees know last, just orders of things. So if we could have what we are defining a traditional school to be, what the rationale would be that certain teachers may not fit that or want to fit that that mold. Parents, maybe they don't or do want their children, but the unknown that's there creates the narrative from however many people are talking about it, because we have not provided them the foundation or the information on what exactly we mean by traditional school. And when you Google traditional school, the first thing someone might see is it's all charter schools, so that goes around because they didn't read 9 sentences in, or they didn't read what what models there are in traditional schools that are within existing public schools. Washington has them. I mean, there's a lot of places that have them. So I feel that we still have the opportunity to make up for maybe a little bit of a rough beginning, to clearly include and explain, knowing that full well that when there is a school that is going to be changed, there are people that have been there forever, people that this is their grandchildren going, or they've taught there from student teaching, and all of that is emotional, and we're a family, so emotions count. But with those emotions, when you have some facts to look at, as you're feeling bad that this is happening, you can then sit back and say, oh, okay, so this is what that means. It might make sense. It might be a little bit better. So I think that from here on in, we have information on how to do that, take input on it, and see how it could be a little more gently rolled out, knowing that this is, it's just really important. And I know that we know that, but we might not have thought about the actual uh, things that might have taken place by it looking to be coming so fast. So that would be discussion item, that would be report, that would be a lot of things, but just to know exactly how we plan on doing it, and be really inclusive on that. Another question I did get was with the new school in Union Park, how are we going to pick the stakeholders to be on any of the teams, committees that would be utilized for hiring the principal, for the mascot, the colors, the this, the that, anything that would have input from the outside. People are wondering how will you pick them since it's a new school and there are places we might think that the people are coming from, the kids are going to come from, but we don't know that. So the information and the rationale behind that when that decision is made or it's already been made is very important to be put out to the public. Other than that, and my voice lasted through the whole thing. Again, happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and just really think about being kind first, and we know that finances are important, but we also know that heart comes first. So, with that, Dr. Finch, you can have the floor or
All
the
right.
dais or the mic, whatever you want.
Thanks. Well, I'll start at the beginning then. Just talk about back to when I arrived. You gave me some charges to do as the new superintendent. One of those things was in our enrollment, to change the narrative in our enrollment. We had declined, and we were on that path. And so you also gave me some great ideas that we need to tackle some things that haven't been tackled in years, i.e. boundaries. And so, and special education, wanted me to look at that as well. But in all three narratives, and traditional schools with the enrollment side, in all three narratives, I said the exact same thing. We're not doing anything until November 6th. And so I've been saying that since the day I walked in. And so because I didn't want it to be a distraction from where we're headed, I wanted to put all our energy into that first. So although I've been talking about traditional schools for over a year and a half and all the logic behind them, and I think you all understand that makes sense. We've been talking about boundaries too, but we were going to wait again till November 6th. So it appears that it's going to be coming fast, but actually, technically, we've been really talking about it for 2.5 years. And the special education changes or work that we've done is really going to start to accelerate when our committees get their work done. Our work groups, I guess, would be a better word. But so all these things are coming together at the same time. So we're going to have exciting next, obviously, throw a new school in there. We're going to have exciting next 6-8 months. So I would love to entertain that session, let you know. Obviously, I've been keeping you updated through Friday updates, but to have the discussion in public, that'd be fine too. Not a problem with that. We had, just to let you know, we started with the Bel Air staff first before anyone knew they knew. We, Dr. Z, myself, and the HR director, Ms. Moffitt, met with the staff first before anyone knew. Spent an hour and a half with them talking about the different questions that they had. So I think it went pretty well. Explained all the angles that we were going at, what we were doing, and why we're doing it. I think everyone understood it, obviously, because enrollment in that zone is shrinking. And so we need something to be an attractor. So traditional schools obviously is something I'm interested in. And again, I think we need one in the north, and I think we need one in the center. Again, that's something I've been saying for 2.5 years. So it's not news to you, but it's important that we, as Ms. O was saying, to continue to communicate. So we're working on that. We're going to have a website up too here pretty soon we can direct people to. So it's still early, but we're definitely starting the discussion with all the other groups. So second thing was around boundaries. Again, that's going to appear that we're rolling along. We actually had a first meeting, more of a parent input meeting. That's really what those were. They're not required by statute, but the next couple are. But we wanted to go out early and gather information from folks, so that's why we went that route. And so I think they went well. I was up in Boulder Creek. I ran that one. Great questions, great thoughts from the community members and parents. I think probably the number one issue that folks will be asking or questioning or wondering as we gather this information, can my kid open enroll to a school that they want? The answer is yes. Open enrollment in Arizona is not going away, and it'll always be a variable. And so we're also, I think, the number two piece of information that's super important. This is really around transportation. So that's a piece that won't change as we phase in. We have a 3-4 year plan. The point will be that their transportation will phase out for that zone, but you can still transport your kid to X, Y, or Z school. So those questions were good. We answered them, and they'll continue to come up. Again, we have a website, a boundary website that gathers their feedback and gathers their input, and also they can send questions too. So our second round of meetings will be a lot more fruitful because people will be more informed. So
Dr.
that's going
Fincher,
well.
just one thing or two things to that I forgot to add. The question is, when will the boundaries go into effect? And then the second question, depending upon the answer to the first question, was with the future freshman nights already happening,
Right.
if the boundary is changed, will those students then be behind in choosing classes that others have already? So those were the other two things.
Yeah,
I forgot to
those
add.
are. I can answer both of those for obviously the audience and for anybody that's watching. The first thing is the concept of grandfathering. So the board will actually make the final thumbs up or down on recommendations from once we gather the input. So one of those concepts could be grandfathering of the now going to be 8th graders, going to be 9th graders, because they've already started down that trail. That could be one of the recommendations from our shop to you to vote up or down. That would be the first point. The second would be, your second question was when it would be enforced. Again, that would be a board thumbs up or thumbs down on a recommendation that we would get. But it's probably, we have to do something with, obviously, Bel Air. We obviously have to do something with our new school. Those things have to be done. Those are thou shalts, because we can't open a school, our new school, without boundaries. And so those are two that have to be done. The other ones don't have to be done. We tried in 2014 and got right to the finish line. We saw the tape and we stopped. So it would not be the end of the world if we got to the end of the tape and stopped. But the two things that have to be done is traditional, our boundary concept there, our boundaryless concept, and the new school. And so those are two things that we have to do. So what will happen is, as we gather input, we'll go back out again to the parents and the community at our next set of meetings, get more information, and we will engage our consultant, Dr. Skip Brown, and give him the latitude to explain to us through this information what he recommends. Then we'll analyze it, send it to you, and in a couple board meetings, 3 or 4 down the trail, in mid-January, we hope to say thumbs up or thumbs down on this recommendation, picking A or B or C or D. So that's kind of how it will play out, with being the choices of grandfathering or not, starting tomorrow or not, or starting 4 years from now. So that will be, all those will be options. I will give you recommendations, and then you can vote them up or down or modify them. So that's where we're headed. That makes sense? So we haven't made those, to answer your question, we haven't made any of those decisions yet, and won't until we gather all the information from the parents and community members.
Okay, yeah, because the burning question from the 8th grade parents is, will
Right.
my kid be behind in
Right.
getting to choose a class. So
Yeah, we
you
don't
can
want
just
to.
put that on the.
Yep.
You can do that later. I don't want to get into all that
Yep.
because it's not really part of
Yep.
what we're doing now.
We're very cognizant of that situation. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And again,
You
I
got
want to
anything
thank.
else?
Well, just want to say Happy Turkey Day to everyone as well. Thanks again to our staff and making Deer Valley the place to be. So we're pretty excited to have another thankful season with our families. So thank you.
All right. Well, that would bring us to our public comments.
Okay, public comments. The board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out a card listing name, address, and topic and hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes. If necessary to accommodate all speakers within the 30-minute overall limit, the board president may shorten each speaker's time. Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, or remarks disrespecting personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the governing board cannot discuss or act on any items not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. With that being said, I'd like to call Nate Miller, Sandra Gutierrez, and Sarah Olney to the microphone. And before each of you speak, if you'll please state your name for the record. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Nate Miller. We represent a group of affected residents who object to the proposed boundary initiative on the grounds that 1. The proposed initiative does not conform to the district's boundary guidelines. 2. The proposal is not supported by the facts and projections presented in the district's demographic and enrollment fall 2016-2017 report, which I'll refer to as a report from this point. And 3, the information circulated by the district to the public is misleading. And also 4, the proposed boundary change will substantially affect the economic interest of the property owners and moreover perpetuate the urban blight and decay that is engulfing South Glendale. Given the substantial harm to the affected residents, both in terms of quality of education and economic harm to property owners which will likely arise, the proposed initiative is not rationally related to achieve the district's objectives. Before we raise our positions, we would formally request the following. 1. The board moves today to postpone the boundary initiative vote scheduled for January 2020. 2. That this topic be added as a formal agenda item for no less than 2 meetings prior to the vote to allow for interactive discussion between the board and stakeholders. And 3. That all persons involved in putting together the presentation be present to answer questions, including Deer Valley Superintendent Curtis Finch. The argument. The proposed initiative does not conform to the district's boundary guidelines. The district has 7 boundary guidelines. Of these 7, the district has highlighted 4 that were important to stakeholders defined as parents. Those are 1, 2, 4, and 5. We will show you how the proposed initiative fails to comport to these guidelines. 2. The proposal is not supported by the facts and projections presented in the district's demographic and enrollment fall 2016 and 2017 report. The report states that Mountain Ridge is currently at about 106% of capacity, but the attendance is expected to decline. Yet the boundary initiative proposes to enlarge Mountain Ridge's boundary north into Sandra Day High School's boundaries. While it makes no logical sense to increase the boundary when the school is functioning above capacity, it further makes no sense to take a contradicting action of also shortening the southern boundary. By changing the southern boundary, the district is doing exactly the opposite of what the stakeholders said were important, keeping families together and neighborhoods together. Will the family be asked to move to Mountain Ridge to the new school during the high school year? If not, will the family be forced to split their family, which the stakeholders said were an important factor? Also, for those Mountain Ridge students who will be still attending Mountain Ridge when the redistricting occurs, will they lose transportation? This is what you guys brought. Another point important to stakeholders. Puzzling to us is the fact that the report states that Sandra Day is not at capacity and will remain basically stable throughout the projected period. Table 23 of the District Boundary Initiative presentation affirms this conclusion. Just as an aside, Mountain Ridge exceeds capacity, but according to the survey mentioned in the report, of its population,
Just state your name for the record.
Harris.
Just as an aside, Mountain Ridge exceeds capacity, but according to the survey mentioned in the report, of its population, 6% came from open enrollment. The only school that is projected to experience an increase in attendance rates by over 50% between 2020-21 and 2027-28 is Barry Goldwater, but the Boundary Initiative does not address this. Thus, it is unclear what the data this Boundary Initiative took into consideration. What would make more sense is to increase the Deer Valley High School boundary, as it is currently well below capacity, by grafting in part of Barry Goldwater, which is expected to experience a huge growth. Yet the Boundary Initiative does not modify the boundaries of Barry Goldwater at all. The information presented by Deer Valley Unified School District Boundary Initiative is misleading. While this initiative is being presented as a necessary change based on population growth, we believe the numbers in the board's presentation simply do not add up. Quite the opposite, the initiative seems to ignore supporting data for a boundary change between Barry Goldwater and Deer Valley High School, and instead promotes one with no valid evidence. The proposed boundary change will significantly impact the property values of those stakeholders who have supported Deer Valley Unified School District. The district only identified parents as stakeholders. That is totally incorrect. Property owners are stakeholders as well. There have been many published studies that demonstrate the relationship between schools and property values. We can furnish the studies to you upon request. However, you can find these readily available articles simply by Googling property values in schools. According to the National Association of Realtors articles, Introduction, Public Schools, and the Realtor, every real estate agent knows what surveys and studies confirm. The quality of public schools influence buy a home and what they pay for it. Regardless of whether they have children, buyers care about the reputation of the school because they know that schools directly affect a community's vitality as well as its property values. I do not recall ever receiving a notice in my capacity as a resident in the affected area about these proposed boundary changes. However, ARS 15-341.37 explicitly states that the Deer Valley Unified School District has to have a procedure to notify the residents of households affected by the attendance boundary changes. Have you notified those property owners affected that their property is being reassigned from Mountain Ridge to Deer Valley, that Mountain Ridge is ranked number 48 among high schools in the entire state of Arizona, but Deer Valley is ranked 135th? I'm sure this is significantly important to these property owners. The people standing before you make this statement are not only taxpayers, but have been some of Deer Valley Unified School District's staunchest supporters. In the recent election, Deer Valley Unified School District asked us, the property owners, to vote for 2 overrides. We did. By contrast, the property owners of the Peoria Unified School District did not. Yet Deer Valley's Boundaries Initiative will negatively affect the property values of the people who supported the school district.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
The board. My name is Sarah Olney. And also put them in the same group to compete for the limited open enrollment spots as those who had never purchased property to begin with in that particular property's boundary, as we did. This initiative does not appear well thought out, and if it is, there has to be more transparency, information, and disclosure. How can you expect community buy-in otherwise? What do you think will happen when property owners believe their single biggest investment is at risk? They will cash out and move it to an investment that has better perspective. As it stands, the city of Glendale is suffering from decay as people are selling out and moving north. However, in this pocket that you are attempting to reassign, we have many amenities that will keep people here and make the affected corner desirable to keep it strong from being affected by the decay. Unless you give parents and property owners good reason to believe it is not such a good place for their children, and it is not a good investment. In the interest of fairness, we all purchased our property and knew what school we were being assigned. Curiously, the report states that most residents utilize their resident school. However, West Wing does not. The report does not state where these West Wing residents are attending. The report inappropriately speculates that it is the distance that is causing the West Wing residents to opt out of their resident school. However, in the report, it fails to include Basis Peoria and Basis Peoria Primary, which collectively has a student body of about 1,500 students and sits in or near West Wing. Basis has topped the U.S. News and World Report's rankings for high schools for years. Could it be that the West Wing residents with children selected the home in that region because of the proximity to Basis, knowing that some top high schools were also within driving distances? Should they decide against Basis down the line? Regardless, they, as we all, made our choices when we selected the home to buy. And they should live with their decisions, as we do. We all want what is best for our kids and our community. However, this situation does nothing to address the areas of real attendance growth. Therefore, we respectfully request that the board cancel the vote scheduled for January and continue the open town hall meetings. We want to support Deer Valley Unified School Districts. We want enrollment, improve test scores, get community buy-in, get good grades, help the kids, then people will flood in as they do to Mount Ridge trying to get into the school. You reassign and shut it down, people will elect through open enrollment to leave their Valley Unified School District.
Thank you. We have another comment from Robert Chevallot.
Good evening, President Ordway, governing board members, and Dr. Finch. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Robert Chevallot. I spoke here at the last board meeting on a bullying incident involving Principal Manier of Norterra Canyon and wanted to update you now 2 weeks later. First, I wanted to thank Ms. Allred for the quick turn on my public records request. I had asked for emails and documents related to LGBTQ issues at Norterra Canyon. A handful of emails corroborated what I brought up at the last meeting. Based on those emails, Principal Manier feels that she has the right to restrict conversations about LGBTQ identities and issues, and she insists that she will be, and I quote, not allowing any sex-oriented topics, no LGBT, transsexuals, pornography, etc., end quote. I feel it's worth noting some ignorant language there, and it's a shame that LGBTQ identities are lumped together with porno. She goes on to say, these are not age-appropriate topics for 6th graders, end quote. She writes that students can present on other topics, and she suggests writing about teen pregnancy. Another student was approved to do a project that discussed cocaine. So she's okay with projects on sex and drugs, just not, again, as I quote, not ones that have to do with sexual orientation, end quote. So my questions are, can a kindergartner present a project on their family and discuss their 2 moms or their 2 dads? Can a 4th grader talk about what it's like to be transgender? Can a group of 7th graders talk amongst themselves about who they like, about who they like? When we talk about the rights of students, we can lose sight of why those rights are there in the first place. The right to free speech is there so students can express themselves, so they can express who they are. When you can't be yourself, when you are told that being yourself is bad, or that you are wrong, or that you are broken, the world very quickly becomes very lonely. In emails to me, Deer Valley Unified has made it clear that Manier's conduct is against your district policy. In meetings with me, Deer Valley Unified has made it clear that it is known that support for your LGBTQ students is inconsistent across your campuses. And in media reports over the last couple of weeks, Deer Valley Unified has made it clear that some of your unofficial policies, especially around names, pronouns, and support for your trans students, goes against well-established medical and mental health guidelines. So how does Deer Valley Unified justify that? The district needs to make clear what is and what is not acceptable. And when teachers, staff, and school leaders are found to be ignorant, the district ought to ensure that personal beliefs do not trump student safety and well-being. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you.
Dr. Finch, could you please provide us a copy of the public records request that Mr. Chevallot received?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, Census 2020 resolution. I move that the governing board approve the resolution supporting a complete count in the decennial U.S. 2020 census.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so I'm going to read our governing board resolution supporting a complete count in the decennial U.S. 2020 census, whereas the United States Census, which is mandated by the U.S. Constitution, enumerates every person in the country regardless of citizenship status and is fundamental to fair and representative government. Whereas the 2020 decennial census has critical implications for the state of Arizona and determines its allocation of seats in the House of Representatives and billions of dollars in federal funding. Whereas a fair and accurate count on the 2020 U.S. Census will help ensure that Arizona's communities, families, and students are represented in our democracy and receive critical services and supports for education, healthcare, transportation, infrastructure, including rural utilities and broadband. Whereas census counts school-aged children and children in poverty at the state and school levels are used to determine funding from the U.S. Department of Education's two biggest elementary and secondary programs, Title I, which is compensatory education, and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Special Education, as well as the National School Lunch Program. Whereas census data are used to calculate the rate at which the federal funds match state spending on programs that support the health and well-being of Arizona students, including the temporary assistance to needy families and the Children's Health Insurance Program. Whereas a significant number of Arizona reside in underdeveloped rural areas, including tribal lands, and census data impacts the state's share of rural electrification and rural broadband access loans. Whereas Arizona is home to sizable populations that have historic low census participation and are most frequently undercounted, including children, immigrants, Latinos, and Native Americans. Therefore, be it resolved that the Deer Valley Unified School District will inform its schools and administration within the district about the critical importance of a complete count and activities process and timeline for the 2020 census. Provide technical assistance to schools to assist them in promoting the 2020 U.S. Census within their own communities to ensure a complete count. Work in partnership with the U.S. Census Bureau as well as organizations focused on traditionally undercounted communities to explore other activities and maximize opportunities to ensure a complete count, and further recognizes that every Arizona child and adult counts. So we have passed and approved and adopted the Deer Valley Unified School District Governing Board on this 26th day of November of 2019. So hopefully we know that we all count and we'll all be counted.
Okay, consent agenda. I move that the governing board approve consent agenda items 5A through 5H.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye. 7A, approve employee professional development I move that the governing board ratify and approve all employee professional development out of state per governing board policy GCCE.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that was 5. Okay. 7B. Sorry. Oh, sorry. My voting's not coming up. And I logged out and logged back in.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to pre-approve the addenda as presented.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5 ayes. Okay, 7C.
I move that the governing board award a pre-construction service contract for the Bel Air Elementary School modernization project using the construction manager at risk method.
I second.
Mr. Miglerino?
President Ordway, members of the board, Dr. Finch, this is our continuing effort, actually the last modernization project that we have scheduled out of the 2013 bond authorization. I just wanted to point out that unfortunately we only received 3 responses for this particular solicitation. I think, again, as a testimony to maybe the shortage of qualified construction staff members to be able to perform some of this work under the schedules that we provide. All that information is detailed in the solicitation when we issue it on the street. But we did receive 3 qualified responses, and the recommendation from the committee, the 5-member committee, is to award the pre-construction services contract to Skyline Builders and Restoration. We have a history working with Skyline Builders and Restoration on many projects, and are excited to recommend them tonight for this. This is the pre-construction award in which we'll engage them in the process. We will bring back to the board hopefully shortly after the first of the calendar year, so we're targeting February, the actual guaranteed maximum price for this particular project for the board's approval before we move forward with any of the actual work. So I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Ms. Tweedy.
Is there a standardized way this is communicated that you want bids with only getting 3 responses? Is there like something that's just generally accepted to communicate this?
Yeah, President Ordway, Ms. Tweedy, yes, there is, and we use a outside agency, AZ Purchasing. It's a organization that actually provides notices for most of the school districts in the state. And so it's also posted on our website, and we provide notice that way as well.
So does that agency then email all like to companies? How to? I guess I'm ignorant here. Is that how the construction companies know to bid?
Yes. Yes, they send out notices to everybody that, and they also post on their site, just as we've posted on our site, on our website, they post all of those solicitations. So it's generally accepted and known that, again, since most districts use the AZ purchasing site, that's where all the school projects can be found.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want him, or do you want in a Friday update, or I don't know what date update, the process that we follow when we are putting bids out for this type of
President Ordway, she did not ask for that.
No, but I am. But I am, and it's Thanksgiving, so please. And I know
Nice
we've gotten
try,
it
Mr.
before, but it's always
Miclerino.
good to get it again. And it's really her present, not mine, so don't have that for me. Any more questions? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nothing opposed. So
We're on the preview.
Oh, Dr. Galligan, are you going? Oh, it's Miss Allred. Okay, good. Science, yes.
President see if I can get this working. President Ordway, members of the board, Dr. Finch. This evening, Christine Allred, our Science CIAS, and I have a preview of the K-2 Science Adoption Committee's recommendations for the science resources in kindergarten through 3rd grade. Excuse me, 2nd grade.
Good evening, President Ordway, Superintendent Finch, and members of the board. Our committee was represented by teachers, administrators, and parents from across the district. While this adoption is for K-2 science, the same committee considered materials for adoption in English language arts. From the onset, one of our primary goals was to find materials that integrated science concepts and literacy development. The new Arizona Science Standards represent a significant shift in instructional practice and minor shifts in content between grade levels. Arizona standards do not directly align with the next generation science standards that most curriculum materials are now written to support. The team completed a thorough evaluation of the materials submitted by vendors, looking at the alignment to Arizona standards as well as the integration of science concepts and literacy skills. The resource recommended for the K-2 science adoption correlates to the new Arizona science standards. The resource represents a natural link between science and literacy. The team has recommended Picture Perfect Science as a primary resource for K-2 classrooms. A single resource that meets all of Arizona's new standards is not available for purchase. Therefore, a supplemental resource will be recommended at a later time to complete the curriculum resources for the grade band. In December, we will submit a materials order with an expected delivery date in February. Our Science Center employees will prepare the new kits for delivery and transition the warehouse configuration to support the new materials for K2. Professional development will be delivered in the spring and summer for all teachers in K2, and the resource will be fully implemented in the classrooms in the 2021 school year. In the fall of 2018, I became a trainer for Picture Perfect, and I'm able to deliver professional development for our K2 teachers. Professional development will again begin in the spring of 2020 for returning teachers, and then additional sessions will be held closer to the start of the 2021 school year for new teachers and those changing grade levels. In its lessons, Picture Perfect presents science concepts using picture books. Students are engaged in the lesson through a high-quality fiction book that sparks curiosity and raises questions that students will seek to answer through investigations. As students engage in the lesson, they build their understanding through investigation and a nonfiction paired text. The adoption will include teacher materials, copies of the picture books, and materials for the investigations for each classroom. The adoption includes a perpetual license for teacher materials, picture books, and kits. Replacement of consumable materials will continue through the DVF Science Center.
We feel that Picture Perfect meets the majority of the Arizona science standards, and our goal to have a science resource that integrates both science and literacy concepts in our primary classrooms. Picture Perfect is the first resource we bring to you for adoption. As Christine mentioned, we will consider a supplemental resource sometime in the future to complete the K2 science standards. Over 7,000 K2 students will benefit from the science resource that seamlessly integrates both literacy and science concepts together. We have noted in the past that many times science and social studies get dropped in our K2 classrooms. And so we've been very diligent in identifying a resource that will integrate both beautifully so that our teachers who focus heavily on literacy will also be able to integrate those science concepts. The K2 science adoption, including tax and shipping, will be no more than $650,000. We will bring this to you as an action item in the December 10th board meeting. Thank you.
I wanted to go first, but okay. Ms. Frank, you can go first.
So were those all the books I saw you carrying at the ASTA conference 3 weeks? You had your hands full.
Oh, no, that was me looking ahead.
Looking ahead, okay.
High school.
So this adoption will then replace what we previously used in the FOSS kits?
Yes.
Okay. And
the kits will be revamped. We've been, for both 3rd and 6th grade, who we've been rolling out new standards with this year, we've been taking the materials from those kits and kind of reconfiguring them so the materials won't be lost. We'll be using them to replenish and to kind of fill in gaps where we need them.
Great, and that will continue to be handled through the warehouse, I believe you mentioned.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then for the Picture Perfect, in addition to the literacy and the picture books, is there a hands-on investigation component?
There is with every one of the books. There's 1 to 2 hands-on investigations.
And then all of those consumables are supplied to the teachers again through the warehouse.
They will be, and there are less consumables in this program than there was with the FOSS kits.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Far fewer living materials too.
Oh, those are my favorite part.
But they're really expensive.
I love keeping track of those paramecium and those amoeba.
I thought maybe the owl pellets, but go ahead, Ms. Tweedy.
No more cockroaches. Sorry.
I do think I know the answer, but I just like to have public discussion of this. The topic of curriculum did come up at the LD 22 meeting, and so just curious what the committee looked like, how long the materials were on display, and did you receive positive or negative feedback?
So the committee members are on the screen there for you. We had a very strong representation from all grade levels. You'll see for this was K2, and we had membership from all grade levels. The ones that are indicated with the stars were also parents that were on the committee. We also had reading specialists and administrators who looked at the materials. The state requirement is that materials are on display for 60 days of public review. I think we were a few days longer than that, where they were out in the lobby there for review.
And did any community members send you feedback during that time?
We had the availability. There was QR codes out there for people to to give feedback. We did not get feedback during the 60 days. We did take the materials over to our back to school meetings for our teachers, and we did receive some feedback at that point in time.
And was that positive, negative, positive feedback? Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to know what the process was. Thank you.
And do we have a ballpark figure about how many teachers we're going to be training?
All of them.
Teachers.
All our K2 teachers.
Right, which the number would
Roughly
be
300.
around. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Brian.
One, can you tell me when the implementation date is again for it to be in the classroom?
August of the next school year.
August of 20.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I thought I heard August of 2021, so I was trying to understand what the delay would be, but thank
Sorry,
you.
it's-
My ears, I'm sure.
No, it's that, when you say 2021, I didn't pause. I apologize in between. Kind of all ran together.
And then my other question is regarding the committee. Do we ever include or invite committee members that are parents that are not educators?
Yes, we did invite, it was posted on our website, the Deer Valley website, to have the availability for others that are not teachers as well.
Okay, we just didn't have any outside folks apply for that. Is that correct? Okay, thank you so much.
So we can go to
I just have one other. I would just like to say thank you for all of your hard work on this. I'm really happy to see literacy embedded within science so that you don't any longer hear I don't have time to teach it. So great job. Thank you.
Are we going to go to our K5 ELA curriculum materials adoption?
Yes, indeed.
Here she is. Do you have copies for us? No, I'm kidding.
Our Judith Senta, who is our K5 ELA CIS, is currently on a cruise with her family for the
can't hear you,
Thanksgiving
but
holiday.
go on.
So we wish Judith a great time. She, as I mentioned, is on a cruise with her family right now. So Jennifer Luis, who is one of our K5, K3 literacy coaches, is here just to support with questions that you may have. So we'll get started right now.
Her lucky night.
This evening we have a preview of the ELA Adoption Committee's recommendations for our K5 English Language Arts textbooks and associated resources. We would like to thank the teachers, administrators, and specialists who worked over the past year to identify the next English Language Arts resource that we will have for the next 5 years in kindergarten through 5th grade. The committee identified 7 criteria that each vendor's programs were reviewed for specifically with best practice in instruction, universal access, and will best serve our students. And you can see that the number 1 there was a balanced literacy program. And then we've identified that writing is an area that we can improve upon at all grade levels. And so we were specifically looking for a program that had that embedded writing within it. And you can read the others. And you'll notice at the very bottom, we also looked for resources that would integrate science and social studies content within the stories and the units for that program. The last K5 adoption was implemented in the 2011-2012 school year. Many changes have occurred in that time, including ESSA, ESSA requirements for a balanced literacy approach, technology integration, and specific instructional routines to address foundational reading skills not only at K2 but all the way through 5th grade. The committee, after much consideration, recommends Houghton Mifflin Harcourt's Into Reading series. We believe that Into Reading provides engaging, high-quality instructional materials that can have a greater impact in raising student achievement for our students. The committee felt that Into Reading materials present rigorous, developmentally appropriate, and culturally relevant content that is aligned to the Arizona's challenging academic standards and assessments. The proposed timeline, as Christine mentioned, includes ordering materials in December with distribution to campuses in late March, early April, so the teachers have access to the materials before the end of the school year, because we know our teachers like to have those books in hand going into the summer. The implementation of interreading will be when students arrive in August 2020. A robust professional development plan has been put in place to ensure teachers using the new resource have appropriate time to become familiar with and receive specific ongoing training with interreading, and that they feel they can successfully make that transition from Reading Street, which we've had for a while, into the new resource. The initial adoption for the next 5 years, 2020-21, will go through 2024-25. You can see that we will receive both hard copy and digital text. There is a consumable student writers workshop that we will receive each year, and digital and print licenses are included within this adoption for those years. We believe the Into Writing resource will support high quality instruction and are fully aligned with the Arizona ELA standards and meet the expectations for each grade level. Over 14,500 students will benefit in reading, writing, listening, and speaking with this adoption. We will bring this topic back to you in December 10th board meeting, and the cost makes my tummy turn horribly, and it actually came down by almost $1 million from when we started to just over 2.6 million. If I remember correctly, back in 2011-12, when we implemented, the adoption cost was a little bit lower. I think it was about 2.1, and we can get that exact number. So we worked, I will say Judith and team worked very diligently with both vendors that were our two finalists to delete things and be very intentional and specific for what we wanted in our classrooms to get that price down. So I'm so sorry about that cost. Thank you very much.
And what grade level configuration is this? Because
This is K5.
right, so that's many more students than the science one.
Over 14,700.
That feels better. I said feels better a little. Yes, Miss Frank?
So this includes, it's a reading curriculum. It also includes a writing curriculum, if I understood the presentation correctly.
Yes.
So as opposed to, I never taught Reading Street, but I don't recall that we really had a formal writing curriculum for the decade that I taught in Deer Valley, so we were always kind of pulling in.
Yep.
I mean, we had the thinking maps and all of this. So even though it's a large price tag, you're really getting sort of 2 for 1, if I'm understanding that.
Absolutely.
You're getting the reading and then a structured writing program.
Absolutely. And I'll ask Jennifer to address that a little bit more.
There is a separate teacher's manual for a writer's workshop, so the modules align with each. There's 12 modules throughout the year. It covers all of the genres of writing and includes mini lessons, embedded writing daily into the reading program, as well as a larger piece. And it's all anchored to mentor texts, so that students are writing authentically to a text, as well as provides model writing samples for students to see what a model text writing sample looks like.
So it gives teachers a structured curriculum, because that was one thing that I always felt as a teacher in Deer Valley was lacking. We were always sort of creating our own. And then also, did it include spelling? Did I see that as well?
Yes, it does.
So will that be replacing, was it Words Their Way, the spelling?
Yes.
I'm trying to
Yes.
remember. Okay. So then there's a structured spelling, structured reading, and structured writing all embedded within one.
Correct.
Price tags sound better now?
Doesn't it? Feels a little bit better.
You're welcome.
Miss Reed?
I have two
Miss Frank.
questions. The first, you mentioned that the text would be culturally appropriate. Can you expand a little bit as far as what that means?
Well, it will be universally accessible and culturally relevant. So universally accessible would be for our special education, EL, and gifted students, components within the program. And then culturally relevant, many years ago, if you were to open up a text, it was white children and that's all we saw. Culturally relevant simply means that when you read stories, they're broader, so that we see different cultures within our stories.
Thank you. That's what I was hoping for. And then the second question, it says that there will be K2 personalized learning app for foundational skills. Will that, I know that we have other apps that help support learners that are, and I can't even think of the names of some of them right now, but so will those still be there? Will the school still be licensed with those supplemental programs, or will this take the place of those as well?
President Ordway, Ms. Reed, very good point. Right now we have an app called Capit. We will not need Capit moving forward, so that would be a cost that we incur yearly that we will no longer have moving forward.
And then when we bring this back for a vote, or in a Friday update, would you be able to kind of break down those costs for us as far as all of this this new curriculum would be replacing all of these other things that we have had to supplement in other ways? So could we kind of see that cost offset, the savings offset?
President Ordway, Ms. Reed, it may not be like capital ALL, but we will have a few items that we'll be able to let go of, and yes, we'll get a list developed and the costs that are associated with that.
Thank you. That would be very helpful.
You're welcome.
So how much we're saving by buying the Mercedes? Is that okay?
My wife uses the same argument for shoes.
Okay. So, Brian, do you have a question? All right. Oh, well, you were going like that, and then you stopped, and you went like that. Go ahead.
And if you don't know this right now, if you could also include this, same question, did we get any feedback from anybody on this?
The feedback was aligned with what the science feedback came with. It was put on display exactly with the 60 days, and we had very little public feedback, and it was taken to Barry Goldwater for back-to-school teacher kickoff, and we did receive some feedback there, and it was positive. We received feedback from our variety of programs, and one of the reasons I was on the adoption committee, went with Into Reading was because of the strong authentic text in there that teachers really seemed to support, and the embedded writing was a very big area that they liked.
Okay, and then after the meeting, if you come across any feedback during the whole 60-day display on either thing, could you just forward that feedback in the board update so we could see it if there was anything?
President Orway, Ms. Tweedy, we certainly will. And we ran this adoption a little different, simply because we put both the K2 science and the K5 ELA together with the sole purpose that we felt it was very important that the two of them coincide beautifully, and that our vendors understood that we were looking for a product that would integrate science and social studies into the ELA literacy program that we would eventually identify. And that was a loud message to our vendors, and many of them fell off because they did not have that availability within their programs. But we will get that to you, yes.
Thank you. And the reason I just say, because when I went to the meeting and I hear feedback on curriculum, I've always said, I've been on the board, I have never received an email during the review process. And I always ask, and I ask if it's communicated, so just asking again, just to make sure we didn't receive anything that I didn't see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mrs. Reed.
Just have a comment or a request. You can sit. Yeah. As far as when we host a committee and we're looking for stakeholder feedback, specifically with parents, and we post it on our website, I don't know how many parents go to our website looking to see what committees they could join. So I'm curious if we could figure out another way to push that information out, even if it's at the beginning of the school year and then at the middle of the school year, of, if you're interested in getting involved in committees, and it could be a variety of committees, and we can list some of the ones that are coming up that school year. You can go to the district website to look and see when we're opening up the application process for those committees, because being a parent in the district for 17 years, I've never checked the website to see which committees I could join. So just a thought to follow that up.
Say to that point, President Ordway, maybe we could have those come across in Friday updates when something like that, when we're looking for something like that, so that we could, as board members, also help to push it out. That would be, I think, helpful.
Something that we've found successful is like at pop meetings or business meetings or any kind of, I'm sure you attend those, you always hear us recruiting. So that's one venue that we use. The second one is just as effective, is through principals. And we put pressure on the regions for example, the budget committee or whatever. We say, hey, we need you to, we're not getting feedback, or we're not getting members, because usually everybody's busy.
Right.
And so we put pressure on the regions to find us folks that are.
Those are both excellent ideas. I just think
Right,
if you add us into the loop, that would be also helpful for us to push it out in other ways that the district wouldn't. Or
And right now we would be addressing our adoptions of curriculum, because we're not talking about committees now. So just keep that in mind.
Dr. Finch, why don't you put it on Twitter? I thought you put everything on Twitter.
Good idea.
Did you miss this one?
Yeah, I missed this one.
Okay.
Yeah. Good idea. Pass that to Monica.
There you go. You're welcome again.
Thanks. No charge, right? Well, we decided to go one more time for through the resolution and lawsuit for a preview, just to continue to update you on what options that we have. We've discussed at the last meeting, and we actually had an attorney here talking about kind of the broader picture. Since then, I think I've sent you articles and information that you can continue to look at. I think for me, there's a couple points. One is
sorry to interrupt, Dr. Finch. Are we covering the resolution first, because they're listed as two separate things? So if we could keep them separate for the agenda, that would be helpful.
Sure. The resolution, the resolution in particular, the attorney talked about both parts, but the resolution was, I think the board asked if someone would check it. So we had a person do that, attorney do that this last week, and I think you got their email. I think you got it today or a couple days ago about, or maybe it was just sent to me, but they checked it, make sure it was okay, and they, I think it was Tullison. Mr. Miglerino, wasn't it Tullison? Yeah, okay. The attorney that worked on it there, we sent it back through them, so it'd be easier because they already know the history. So we did that around the resolution. So if you have any questions related to that, but my 2 cents on it is the resolution is obviously a summary of what you're aiming at. And remember, this one's around the impact on students and the impact on districts related to costs, and that's again tied ultimately to a lawsuit, which I talked about last time.
Could you forward us the legal opinion on the resolution? Because I don't recall having seen that.
I saw it today.
Last couple of days, so maybe.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Be awesome.
Yeah, I think maybe it was only sent to me. I'll get that to you. And again, this is the preview item. We're given another 2 weeks, or actually we only have 2 weeks to chew on it some more. If you want more information, again, I would recommend that you go through the PowerPoint. That's the key point that was useful to me to learn a little bit more about the impact. And I'll keep sending you more information related to both. And if you see anything out in your land, send it to me and I can forward it to the group as well.
Does anyone have any questions?
Lawsuit, we also ran through the Juul vaping lawsuit. Remember, Juul controls 80% of the market. They're the Xerox of copying. They become a verb now because they are the ones that control the market. And I think I shared with you how they got here, and I think the attorney did last time. They've basically, big tobaccos bought it, a major portion of them, putting their dollars behind it, billions of dollars. And so the lawsuit is really around the district's, school district's cost of chasing these things down. I think I forwarded you today a new series of lawsuits out of Seattle. Another group of lawyers, a group of firms that are pursuing a different angle. This one's about addiction and more of a public nuisance claim, which is actually what the opioids was about. That's how that was settled. Just recently settled, I think, with Johnson and Johnson. So this one's a little bit different, but I think the paths are the same. So I think I sent you statistics from last year, which was tobacco. This year, we're separating them out, how much time we're spending just on Juul. Remember the students that we're actually catching with it. So I think I just sent that to you in the last update. So it's showing the impact of and time that we're spending on it. To me, that's a side note. It's really about the accountability of this new epidemic in our youth around nicotine, and how the industry has directly marketed to them, directly impacting future generations. So that's my 2 cents on it. We can actually have if you want an executive session on it, we can bring in another attorney or the attorney that worked on it for Tolson's. If you want to know more information, you want more statistics, we can get all that stuff for you, whatever you want. But again, this is no cost to the district. Will be eventually 4, 5, 10 years from now, who knows, it'll become a class action and be settled long term. So we will be going after the costs of the amount of, we will have to prove our costs over time.
Yes,
that's the general concept.
Yes, Ms. Tweedy.
I'll just quickly give my 2 cents, but I think for me, I guess I just don't understand why it's the school district's job to hold Juul accountable. I do think passing laws and fining them if they're marketing to minors is absolutely appropriate, and I just think the only reason to bring a lawsuit against somebody in general, I mean, I get annoyed when I think I'm served with a frivolous lawsuit, is if you can prove that party did something that cost you money and that you were wronged by them, and it's not that the student's parents may have a lawsuit if Juul marketed to them and now their child's ill, but I would need to see for myself to vote to go this direction, that you could prove Juul caused Deer Valley a monetary loss that we should recover. And that's just me. I wouldn't want to feel like the person that ships in Walmart and acts like I won the lottery. I mean, I just, and I'm not saying I agree with their product, but you fine people for stuff like that, and you pass laws against what they're doing is how you deal with it. It's not by the school district. But if this were even ever going to be brought forward, I would want to know that our own attorneys have looked at it.
Ms. Frank?
So in terms of the lawsuit, and forgive me, I was not at the previous meeting where there was a presentation. What is the anticipated, or what is the expected outcome for Deer Valley? If we sign on to this lawsuit, what is it that you expect the outcome to be for us?
I can answer that. And again, the attorney last time kind of talked a little bit about that. It won't have the reason. Well, maybe I can address both concepts at the same time. The reason why they want schools in the game is because we have direct impact with students and have a bigger social handprint on society. So I think that's why they are going the school route. I know there are other entities, other groups that are attacking them from different angles. No different than the opioid epidemic. They attacked it from many different sides, and then it doesn't become a class action until enough firms, enough impacted folks, enough plaintiffs get together, and that's actually happening as we speak. So, but as far as expecting it for Deer Valley in the future, what I think will happen, again, I'm guessing into the future, and we can actually have an attorney come and explain it to us if you'd like. This is normally what happens. All these different folks begin to sue from different parts of the country. It gets all combined. Usually, I think these are coming out of the West Coast. It gets combined, turns into class action, and so XYZ is settled for $1 billion. And if we are one of the people that's in the group, we have to show that, and we will be throughout the process showing that there's an impact on our system. How much administrative time is spent on? Do we buy smoke detectors? Do we hire dogs to chase this type of product, et cetera, et cetera? That concept. What are the costs, the hard costs? And so then when there's a settlement, obviously you don't get the true cost back, but you get a portion of the amount of costs that you have. And that's kind of how class actions work. So in particular, take the opioid settlement. Johnson & Johnson was required to spend billions to the healthcare industry. And so different sections of the healthcare industry, different slices of the pie, different parts of society did as well. Obviously not the true cost, but it's a penalty to the maker.
So then the purpose would be, whoever the plaintiffs are, if they could show that there were costs, they had to spend money because of this, then Deer Valley would receive a portion of whatever the settlement
Correct.
would be.
And the other, maybe, this is to Miss Tweedy's point, the Laureos will also get us. The Laureos will get a slice of the pie first. The first slice of the pie. So that they are the ones that are obviously pushing it and organizing it, because they are spending real people's time, money, and effort. But they think this, just like the opioid, they think this is a real. They have evidence, which is in the PowerPoint, of how they've directly, basically copied the Marlboro whole system, and that settlement, that was all became public documents. And so all their research, their 20, 30 years of research, they just cut and pasted for their product and accelerated their marketing to youth right away. And if you look at the PowerPoint, you can actually see the commonalities with their product and to their research.
Yeah, I remember, what was it, 25, 30 years ago, Joe Camel, all of those billboards, all targeted
That's a
towards
great
students,
example.
So.
Yep, and they spent millions on that.
Well, it is kind of interesting. I did take some air quality portable sensors out to a high school last year, and the kids all wanted to check the air quality. This is a sidebar in the bathroom. I'm like, why are you guys going into the bathroom? It measures particles, not gases. Sorry, kids. Well, because everybody was vaping
They
in
weren't
the bathroom.
even being flippant.
Everybody was they were all vaping. There was a lot of vaping that went on in the bathroom, and so when they came out with their sensors and we could look at the data, their air quality was in the dangerous level because of the particulates from vaping and smoking. So that's just a side note.
No, that's a good side note.
Just a little bit too, because I did attend Senator Carter's press conference that talked about having a definition of tobacco. I think the more education organizations that sign on to it might have, and I say this maybe, might have a little bit more of an impact on changing the company's recruitment, their advertisement. Who knows? So there might be that portion of it too, because at this moment in time, we have parents that feel that they can buy the vaping materials because it's not like smoking. So I think there's going to be a lot more information, a lot more. There'll just be a lot more information coming from all different ends. So anyway, so Brian.
To speak, I think, to the concerns regarding the impact to our district, the fact that we are having to discipline students in probably as low as 5th and 6th grade and all the way up through high school is a financial impact to our district, since our staff could be doing other things at that time. And not only is that my concern related to this social epidemic, the concern is the cost to our students and the time they leave. And when students are disciplined and are suspended, that impacts our teachers, because that is additional work for our teachers as well. It's hard for our kids to stay caught up. And then furthermore, when they get those who might unfortunately get deathly ill, there's another cost in meeting those students' needs. So I don't know what our next step needs to be as a board. If it's the board needs to meet with an attorney to have an executive session, or where we're at. But I would like to see us move forward. So I don't know, President Ordway, what next steps are. Or if my fellow board members could share that, I would appreciate it.
If you would put your concerns, questions, in an email to Dr. Finch, and then we could get those answers back and see if we're thoroughly understanding it. That would be awesome.
I think it would be helpful if we're going to be voting on whether or not to sign on to a lawsuit to hear additional legal advice.
That'd be fine. We have 2 different sets that would be more than willing to come, so we could do a executive session
That
before
would be
next
awesome.
one.
Just
Answer any
Thank you.
questions that you might have.
Okay.
Can I just clarify that request, though? I would like the executive session to be with our own attorneys, not the person bringing the lawsuit.
Do you want both?
Well, I definitely want to hear from our attorneys.
Well,
right. Well, I think having both in the room would be appropriate
Okay, that's fine.
because we'll listen to ours.
one
as
will
the
be
last
free and
word
one will
anyway.
not.
Okay.
The and the ones, I better not speak.
Yes,
where
you
they're
better
at.
not.
So I think we can figure it out. We'll find the right folks for you.
Thank you so much. I
All
appreciate
right,
that.
we need the appropriate lawyers to be in the room at the same time. So that
I think you're.
I'll be happy to bring out a set of air beams free of charge to any teachers who want to collect the data.
Awesome.
you say that. Oh, all the principals
We'll put you to
left.
work.
That's right.
Because they would be taking you up on
Right.
that.
I bet you we could talk Dr. Galligan into sharing that with the
Science
principals.
lesson.
Right. Okay, so is there anything else? So I guess we could adjourn the meeting at 8:32.
I think that we have future meetings posted, and I move that we adjourn the meeting.
At what time?
8:32.
Thank you.
I second.
And I say we take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Go ahead.
Aye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.